Welcome to the Coach Judy Live Talk Show. It's about planting seeds for creating positive thoughts and actions so that we all can achieve success in our personal, professional, or work life. We will enlighten you and brighten you today and every day we have the show. And maybe your life, by what we share, will lighten the load that you may feel you're carrying. Former guests to our show have been such people as the late Steve Jobs when I did the talk show at Clear Channel that is now iHeart. As a matter of fact, if you know Harvey Korman from the Carol Burnett Show, his son, Christopher Korman, was on our show on November 7th that you can see on YouTube, and he's now a personal friend of mine. To those who may have heard of him, he released a new book about the river or the end of the river. Dave Pelzer, an author, motivational speaker. He was recognized by 4 U.S. presidents, and his first book was called A Child Called It. I've spoken with his PR person, and we're hoping to be able to bring Dave on this summer as he is phenomenal. His books are phenomenal, and we talk the same language, so I'm looking forward to that. We will also discuss all kinds of topics. What we discussed today doesn't mean it's the same topic the next time. We are going to be talking about financial, parenting, wellness, whatever that means to you. We will talk about pets, how to take care of our pets. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to share with you our mascot, who you see at the top of our page. This is really our mascot, Miss Lady Phoenix. She's to help raise and uplift and put smiles on your faces, which is one of the missions that I have as Coach Judy. Today, it's important to understand that if we listen and we get the facts so we can act, we can actually achieve success. But the question is, where do you turn to get the facts? Well, one place is now the Coach Judy Live Radio Show. You can go to our website. It's on the screen at www.coachjudy.info. Click on the 3 bars and click on Talk Show. Go to YouTube and click on and watch again, or share it with others, because I know Sundays people are busy and it takes time out of your day so that we are available 24/7. But there's not something more. As a matter of fact, the show is not just me hosting it and putting on Facebook and YouTube, but we are now part of a station known as Going Solo. But don't let Going Solo throw you, because the show and the station is about providing you all types of topics from all walks of life and all types of areas. They may focus on singles, but guess what? If you're a single parent, if you're married, you're single, we all need the same kinds of information. So it really doesn't matter what the actual title is. It's what you get out of it and the information that is provided to you. Today's topics are going to be a little diverse, as we have on our screen now is attorney Jeffrey H. Mindy. He will be coming in a little later. And if you ever heard the word trust and want to know what is a trust, and especially a special needs trust, Jeffrey will be sharing with us what that is all about, as he's a phenomenal background in trust and special needs trust. And as a matter of fact, I discovered Jeff not by the way I advise people to, but because I was on a deadline and the attorneys I reached out to weren't getting back to me and I had to make this deadline. I said, I'm just going to have to Google the type of trust that I needed and hopefully I'll find the right person. Well, guess what? I did. And that's why Jeffrey Mindy is on our show today. So just know, every minute, every action, every thought creates something else to happen. We may not plan it, we may not expect it, but it can end up working in our favor. But if it doesn't work in our favor, guess what? Here on the show, we're going to help you turn life's challenges into positive thoughts and actions. Because if you don't, you're going to be angry, You're going to be resentful. You could be abusive in your relationships with a loved one, family members, or even your employer or other employees that could cost you your job. So I believe it's so important that we understand how we use our mind and how to transfer it or transform it into be a positive, healthy thinking mind over what anger can do to you, because it will destroy you. And you may think, no, it's not, but let me tell you, it will destroy you. It may not be from your mindset, but guess what? I know somebody who carried anger until the day he died. And every time he acted on his anger, he ended up, number one, with cancer. Second time he acted out in his anger and what became physical, he ended up with a triple bypass. The next time he acted out of anger and revenge, he ended up with cancer again and passing away. So I can say, think about your anger that you carry, because if you carry it, it's going to hurt you, even though you say it's not, because what happens is what we see, think, and see gets implanted in our mind from the conscious, unconscious, and the subconscious, where it stays. And then it may come out where when you least expect it. Fortunately, I can say that it turned out for me over 30 years ago that led to today, that I found myself having to reach out to attorneys again the first time. Never had to look for an attorney, never had to be concerned about the court system, because as a single parent, fortunately, my two divorces ended up to be simple, no fighting, no arguing. They just accepted. The divorce went through. Well, this time it was getting physically ill, needing two surgeries, and believing the parties involved wanted to help me temporarily. And that when I was released from the doctors, which I was 9 months later, and said, you're ready to resume parenting your children and have your children back, I reached out to the parties involved and I said, I talked to the doctors. I'm in the best health I've been in 10 years. I am ready to have my child return. What do you think the person said to me? Well, you would think they said, okay, great, Judy, you're well, and we'll be happy to return your child. But that's not what I heard. I heard the words, go tell it to the judge, thinking that would scare me. And because of the limitations, thought I never would go to the judge. Well, the programs that I will be speaking about today and created, this show is a result of signing papers that I thought I understood as a layman. And it turned out that the legal language is not always what you think it is in common sense. And I found out that I gave temporary custody, but the parties were treated as they had sole custody, but they didn't. And as a result, I fought 2.5 years in family court here in Broward County, Florida from 1990 to 1992. And because of what I'm going to speak about in a moment, I was successful in winning my case. And a lot of people said to me, and if I had listened to them and to their minds rather than my mind, they said, just let her stay there. You know, it's hard. Just let her stay, like make it easy. And I realized at that time, they're thinking it from their perspective because they don't see their strength to have gone and fought to bring home your child. But I said no to myself. I am going to get my daughter returned, and I'll do anything and everything I can that is legal and appropriate to get her home. Did I focus on my anger? No, because if I focused on my anger, I probably would have lost, because the anger would have had control over my actions. Instead, as our motto is, get the facts, act, and achieve success, turn negative into positive thoughts and actions, I focused on what I could do, which became the positives that allowed me to win in court. Had I not been active and working with my attorney, becoming a detective to get information on the parties involved that would work against them, find people who would be willing to testify in my behalf versus relying just on the attorney, and also having a top-notch forensic psychologist, well known here in the country, to come in and testify, the case could have been a whole different situation. I might have lost. I really thought they were going to win. But again, it's I reached out. So often people say, if I had done this, if I had done that. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine I spoke to, who I met through the National Single Parent Resource Center, said to me, well, if this is sleep, not being able to sleep, and this makes me not able to sleep. And I said to her, I said, well, then why don't you do the things that you need to do so that you don't have to worry about the if and you can sleep? But the thought of doing those things, I think, may have overwhelmed her, and she'll probably do nothing. But that's where I'm bringing in why our show is so important. It's all about what we think, what we take in, and what we're willing to do. If you're closed-minded, then everything we say here may not mean anything to you. But if you're an open-minded person and you really want to better yourself at any age, then you're going to want to listen, because the knowledge that we're sharing with all our different guests that we have had on and will continue to have on with new guests, you're going to get the knowledge, and you don't have to say, well, if this or if that, or I can't sleep because of this, and I can't sleep because of that, or I can't do this. Well, guess what? Yeah, you're never going to be able to change it. You're going to be stuck in your own little well of nothing because you aren't willing to take that step. And that's what our show is about. It's about giving you knowledge. It's giving you support. It's giving you topics that affect everybody in all walks of life, so that we lift the weights off of you that you may not even realize you're carrying, by providing the knowledge, or as I say, get the facts to act and achieve success. Because had I not reached out when I discovered my child wasn't going to come home, the National Single Parent Resource Center, being a guardian ad litem, being nationally recognized as an expert on divorce and single parenting, and becoming a talk show host, never would have occurred, because I would have been caught in the anger and losing my child and my other child of not having a relationship. But because I act and took steps and didn't say, well, if I had done, I can proudly say that my children and I have a wonderful relationship. They're 41 and 50. But if I or we didn't work at it and accept our differences, then we would not have a relationship today. Another key thing that I want to bring out briefly is this right here. I hope you can see it clear. I hope I've got it straight. The tall woman in the picture happens to be my daughter. This is our new program that's on the internet through our website. It's a program for those who are dating and end up pregnant. They need us, or this program and the National Single Parent Resource Center, because if you don't get the facts and do it when you need to, you're going to have problems later on if you're not married and you have a child, because there are legal things you need to do. In addition, if you are considering or going to be forced into going through family court, whether you're married or not, you're going to want this program. It's called Practical Knowledge for Facing Divorce and Single Parenthood. Save time, money, and frustration. And because of doing this program in person in the beginning of the National Single Parent Resource Center, many clients and members, they achieved ways to reduce their anger. They were able to reduce the stress. They were able to end up working together with the spouse and the family and work in the best interest of the children. And I'm sharing it with you, and you can go check it out. You can even order it on our website at coachjudy.info. That's at the bottom of your screen. Because again, I keep going back to, if you don't reach out to get the facts, then you're going to lose. Facts are make all the difference in getting the right facts from the right people. In addition, we are opening the door to create a new vendor business directory, because one of the things I believe is if we give you information, but we can't direct you to the people that can help you, we're only doing half the job. So we are going to be offering to advertisers or businesses of all types, not just legal, not just psychological, but all types of businesses, even retail, mom and pop who want to become donors and benefit and help the single parent families, especially our children, because they are the ones who are damaged and they pay a price for the rest of their life. You can become a part of the Coach Judy Live talk show and know your funds do not come to Coach Judy. They don't come to Judy Romanoff. I have never been paid to do the nonprofit because I was fortunate enough in an article that is on the website to be born into a family that was successful, fund, which allowed me to put all my time into the National Single Parent Resource Center. But today things start to change. You see, I got gray hair. So times have changed. Asking the community, the people of Florida, because we are a registered nonprofit in Florida, to consider sharing your expertise as a guest on our show. Get your business out there so people know that you're here on the Coach Judy Live show, as well as know that the funds that you use to help your business increase your asset with through a business, or as a donor of making a difference and saving our children the lives that they deserve to have by having families working together in cooperation and harmony in the best interest of the children. Our society will improve, but we cannot do it if become single parents don't have the knowledge. So I'm suggesting, I'm not saying, I'm suggesting, if you really want to make a real difference and also help us with the show so that we can provide even more talent and topics on the show, please consider joining the vendor member directory with Coach Judy that benefits the National Single Parent Resource Center. And again, please know all funds go to the National Single Parent Resource Center that you can reach through our website, judy.info. There is a link that says single parents. You click on it, you're going to learn more. It's going to say some of the same things I just spoke to you. In addition, it will link you to our other website that has a lot more information, as well as an information sheet called Coach Judy's 10 Practical Tips for Divorce and Single Parenting that you can download and get the knowledge if you are thinking, going to be, have no choice, or a child is removed as being a single parent, you're going to want to get the video. You're going to want to join the National Single Parent Resource Center, because as we get donations and funds in, we will be able to bring on new people to facilitate empowerment groups, as well as one area that my specialty is we want to run divorce classes for you online. You don't have to leave home, and you can get the knowledge, just like who have taken advantage of the programs we've done. As a matter of fact, I've even helped a couple reporters many years ago who were going through divorce, contacted me and their questions, and of course I answered their questions. So just know that everything that we are doing is about helping you, helping society, and especially the children of today. We are going to be having interns as well, because I reached out to an organization that I couldn't reach out to before but wanted to, because the party that was involved with my custody case happened to be a key player in bringing the organization to Broward County, and I knew I couldn't get in his sphere of influence. And he has passed, so now we are now connecting, and I'm going to bring them on, and I'll share more once everything is put together, because it's an organization that is key, especially if you have children, because it empowers, it educates, and makes a difference in their life. I also want to share a little bit more about creating challenges into positives. How do we think? How can we create something that makes us so angry into something positive? I'm going to give you a suggestion. 12 years ago, I found myself going through some unexpected, very hard times. I was scared to death many times. I didn't know if I was even going to survive because of what I was going through and the people I was meeting and the challenges. But what helped me to keep going and to be here today is I thought of what is positive in the moment for that day. It was what was positive. And I also knew that I had to keep my mouth shut, because also another tip I'm going to give you is if you engage and start arguing or saying to somebody who isn't going to listen to you, you are giving them your power. So if you are angry and you start with somebody, you're giving your power to that other person who's making your life miserable. So instead of making an issue, work with them as much as you can until the situation can change. And again, that's why positive mindset is so important. And I just want to say one thing. My mother said to me after my father had passed away, and she was there when I was going through some of these hard times. She said to me, Judy, she said, you're the most positive person I have ever known. And that's why I'm happy to be able to be here and bring you new and exciting positive mindsets that will help make your life easier. Because if we're make our life easier, we're less angry, we're healthier, we're productive, and we're enjoying life. Isn't that what you want? You want to enjoy life, and you want to keep listening and keep tuning in to the Coach Judy Live Talk Show. I also want to let you know that one of the things that I'm excited about that happened that I was going to do, I would say during COVID, but then I ended up getting sick and had surgery and a few other things. So now that I'm finally back on my feet and in great shape, we are now with a station that's not just a radio station. It's a station that is known as newsstreamingnetwork.com, home of Going Bold Media and Going Solo Media, and originally WGSN DB, Going Solo Network Radio. She now has podcasts, TV shows, as we are at one of her TV shows. She has a distribution in 46 countries besides all of the United States. She's got us on 56 platforms. Can you imagine one station having you on 56 platforms? And last year, they had over 6 million people viewing their shows on Roku. So I just want to let you know, we are with a station that is dynamite. Cece Schatz, the founder, is a dynamic woman, and she built this station out of nothing. Just like I took my experiences as a single parent to create National Single Parent Resource Center. She's a single parent. Instead of going the path that so many people do, she created the radio station. We are now all over the world, and we're on your TV through Roku. So please, if you want to watch us on Roku and Cooper Station, go to our talk show page, click on her station, and that'll take you to where you can watch our shows, other shows, and great guests that she has on as well. So I feel very lucky, and that's why I keep stressing to you today about let go of the anger, find ways to think and act in a positive way because you're going to enjoy life. Again, the things I've gone through, people have said, I don't know how you survived. I don't know how you did it. And it's again by changing my mindset, not learning not to be afraid, advocating, being assertive, and going to the right places and people to achieve the successes I need. Like I did with our next guest who will be coming on, Attorney Jeffrey Mindy. As a matter of fact, I found Jeff, for those who are just tuning in, I always tell people you need to get references and you need to check out any business, any service you need. Don't go to Google and just Google and call. You don't do that because you have a great chance of getting the scammers, the wrong people who don't care. But in my case, I was running out of time because the attorneys I were calling, they wanted $2,000 to do something that was simple, or they didn't get back to me, or because my needs were not great enough because I already done most of the work to begin with, they didn't even return my phone calls. So I had a choice. So I did the Google, and I Googled Special Needs Trust. I called a couple, and I spoke to Jeffrey. We found that we had a lot that we could communicate and share about, And there was something about him that made me feel I could trust him. It was a gut feeling. And sometimes our gut feelings come from our experiences that's really down in the subconscious or unconscious that comes to the surface that helps us to make the right decision. Because of the energy and the communication I felt with Jeff, I asked him if he could take care of a situation with the trust. And as you know, because he's right here. So I'd like to introduce my guest who's going to talk about trust. He's worked in many areas of law as well, but he found what his passion was, and that is trust and special needs trust, which is so important. So few people even know trust to begin with, unless you've experienced with trust or you have had a business or a major corporation, then you know about trust and what they can do and how to use them. But a lot of people don't know anything about the trust because it's never been in their vocabulary because it's not in their life and their economic situation. So I feel kind of lucky that I did have the life experiences that I did have because I knew a little bit about trust and how they work. And talking to Jeff and finding he has the passion for the area that I needed more than anything else at the time, he took care of me well. And I said to him, and I did pay for Jeff. I didn't do it for free. I paid him as much as like everybody else pays him. And he took care of it right away. I didn't have to worry because the stress I was under by the other attorneys not getting back to me was making me scared and restless and didn't know what I was going to do. But Jeffrey Mindy took stress, that fear, that anxiety that was getting me ill off and lifted that weight off of me. So I'd like to introduce Jeffrey Mindy, attorney at law, counselor at law, because he knows about different types of trust and he's going to provide you that knowledge or the facts so that you can achieve success if you are in need of trust or disabled, and you may get an award for a settlement from a car accident, your inheritance, and you think, how can I do it? I'm going to lose my government assistance. How can I get that money? What can I do? Well, Jeffrey is the one who can help you. So I'd like to welcome Jeffrey Mindy to our show to speak besides just be some on our screen with our show.
Thanks, Judy. I appreciate it. That was a glowing introduction.
Well, I just feel people deserve to be recognized when they're good. They deserve it because there's not enough good people like you out there, especially in the legal system. There's horror stories, but you're good, and I want people to know about you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, let me give you a little background.
Right.
I'm originally from Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn boy. Grew up on Long Island. I became a social worker before I was an attorney.
Oh, so you had a compassion for people.
Well, I went to Adelphi University back in the 80s, got my MSW, and practiced social work for about 5 years, and then had a very interesting case come up when I was working for a school for the autistic. And this young child was not being allowed back into the United States because she had a disability. Her parents had inconceivably gone down to El Salvador in the middle of the Civil War to visit family. And the government was allowing the parents to return, but not the little girl.
But wait a minute, they were allowing the parents, but not the child?
Right, because the child had a disability.
Well, what does that got to do with being with her parents?
Well, because you're talking about immigration and naturalization at the time, INS. So we went to work trying to get the little girl home, and they hired an attorney, and I was doing his research, not realizing it. Of course, I was doing my work, and he was taking my notes and my findings and going to court and winning his arguments. based on what I was doing. And when the little girl came home, which she did eventually, I said, I don't need to give it to him. I can do it myself.
Right.
So I decided to go to law school. And I went to law school. While I was transitioning between social work and law, I met an attorney in New York who is unfortunately deceased now. And he told me about special needs trusts. That was the first time I was introduced to special needs trusts, which are a vehicle for disabled people to maintain eligibility for governmental benefits, even though they have assets. Anyway,
What do you mean by that? What do you mean they have assets
well,
and disability? I'm a little confused.
well, let's say you you have a wealthy grandparent, or you win the lottery, or you come into some kind of money somewhere, and you're only allowed a certain amount of money by the government, or else you lose your SSI, or you lose your Medicaid, or whatever.
I just interrupt you for a minute. Can you give us what type of money do they get? I mean, do you know what people on disability really get and what type of money you're talking about?
Well, what happens is if you're disabled, you get SSI and Medicaid, and the amount of SSI is maybe $700 a month, $750 at this point. You get that in a check or direct deposit, and you get Medicaid. Now, the Medicaid asset limit is extremely low. It hasn't been raised since about 1980. And it's only $2,000. So if you have more than $2,000, you become disqualified from receipt of governmental benefits.
So you're saying that if you get something unexpected, the government's going to cut you off?
Yes.
Is that why we hear so many stories today that people lost their benefits and wonder why or didn't know what to do?
Yes, that's exactly why. And what happened was that the United States government and the Congress, in its infinite wisdom at the time, realized that they were shortchanging every disabled person in America. There was something called a Medicaid qualifying trust at the time, and you could basically put your money into a trust, and then your money would effectively disappear, and you could get benefits. The government said, well, that's not good for most people, but it's good for some disabled people. So they created something called the Special Needs Trust. And when you have a special needs trust, you can put any amount of money or any kind of asset virtually into the Special Needs Trust. There are no asset limits. I
can answer your question. If you put it in a trust, do you own the money? Because you're using it, or
no,
what?
You don't own the money. The trust we set up the trust so that the trust becomes its own entity. It gets its own federal ID number, and it's not connected to your social security number or your asset at all. So it's a zero. As far as you're concerned as the disabled beneficiary, you have no asset.
So then anybody who's on disability can now know that they can protect themselves and not lose. Because I know somebody who she wasn't on disability, but she had government programs, and she was afraid because her husband died, she would get his assets, and was afraid she was going to lose her place to live.
Mm-hmm. And so she could have taken those assets, put them into a special needs trust, and they would have zeroed out effectively, and she would have been able to maintain eligibility for benefits.
Interesting. Why isn't this more well known? I mean, I was kind of shocked when you shared with me about the special needs trust.
Right. Basically because the government doesn't want you to know about it.
Are they going to come after me?
No, they're not coming. They're not coming after anybody, but they basically don't like the idea. They created it, but they don't like it. It's like, why are people getting free stuff? Well, they're not getting free stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
when you think about it now, most people live a $2,000 asset limit is it's practically criminal in this day and age.
Right. You can't even keep a roof over your head, especially in today's times when rent is
No,
like $1,500 or more.
exactly. I mean, you how much do you pay for rent, in a place? Anyway, but if you set up a special needs trust, you can put the Taj Mahal in there, and it's
Uh-huh.
not a countable asset. I had a gentleman who called me once, and he wanted to put his Learjet into a special needs trust. People
Uh-huh.
have different reasons for doing different things, and it's a very flexible tool
Now I get
to.
a question because I know a lot of wealthy people. They say, and I was for those who don't know, I was in the insurance business and life and health, and
Mhm.
I went to a seminar and they were talking about how you can spend down for over 5 years or something, and
Right.
then they get the benefits of an aspect of it. Is that correct? And then they get a special needs trust.
Well, let me enlighten you.
Okay.
Let me enlighten you. If you have a special needs trust, that look back period, that 5 year period that they will disqualify you from benefits for transferring assets, that 5 year period is erased.
What do you mean
So
erase?
let's erased. It no longer exists. There's no
Uh-huh.
look back period. So
I
let's
see.
say you want to set up a special needs trust. You can take your X number of dollars, put it
Right.
into the special needs trust, and it there's no waiting period.
Okay.
No
So
waiting
then they don't
period.
have to worry about spending down then, actually, if
Right.
they end up
There's no
like,
spend down.
okay.
So you can have, like I said, you can have an unlimited amount of assets. It's got an interesting history. What happened was that the law on special needs trusts got passed in 1993 during the last hour of the legislative session that year. Somebody was woke up, in the back row of Congress and said, "I think this might be a good idea." So they didn't know exactly what to do. They had a congressional staffer call a woman named Marty Ford, who at the time was the director of the ARC,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually dictated over the phone an exception to the Medicaid qualifying trust ban, and they put it right into the law. They wrote the law based on what she said on the phone. Which,
Interesting.
it's interesting because later on I did something called humanitarian welfare reform, which became the Social Security Ticket to Work Act.
Oh, I know that program. I've heard of that program.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, I bet we both know the attorney who helped to create that as well
I,
from Harvard.
you're talking to him.
What?
You're talking to him.
All right. Well, then I know there was another person, but I can't mention his name, who's an attorney who also was involved at the very early
There
stages.
was another attorney,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So,
So we have a celebrity here who
yeah,
actually is the one who's helped, at
right.
least here in Florida, then, to help
So
people who
yeah.
are on disability.
So what happened was we sent this proposal to President Clinton, and several weeks later, the State of the Union is on TV, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching the State of the Union, and all of a sudden, it sounds very, very familiar. So
Yeah.
I call up the other attorney who was at the time a partner of mine, and I said, "You better put on this State of the Union address because I think we're having our 15 minutes of fame." And he said, "You wrote that?" I'm like, "Yes, I know." So when they codified it, I went and I looked at the legislative history and their findings of fact. The United States Congress's findings of fact were taken line for line from my proposal.
And
I
you
don't
didn't get
think
credit?
I got a phone call from Governor Jeb Bush's office, and I got a letter from the president,
Oh, good. You got
and that
recognition. At least you can
and
show
that was
because,
yeah. I
yeah,
wanted a photo op.
right.
That they
I
didn't give
can
me.
imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine because I can relate to that because it's like I tell people I've been called the Oprah of South Florida. They don't believe me. Well, I've got a letter where it says Coach Judy is the Oprah of South Florida, because
Yeah.
people could say anything.
So that's where the Ticket to Work program comes from. And I've been doing special needs trusts since 1994. I've done about 3,000 of them.
Wow.
Over the course of about 30 years. I'm very proud to say that I've never lost one.
Right.
They always pass muster. If they ever get reviewed by any agency, I've never had a problem with any of them.
Right.
And I have, for the most part, very satisfied clients, and their assets are protected. We can use the trust for almost anything.
What are the exceptions? What are the exceptions? Because if you're using benefits for food and things like that.
Well, there are some exceptions, but they're almost unenforceable exceptions.
Really?
For example, there's a limitation. There used to be 3 limitations. One was food, one was clothing, one was shelter.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of the clothing limitation.
Okay.
They dumped that a long time ago. Then they had the food limitation, but the food limitation says that you can't use it for groceries. Can't use the funds for groceries. However, it does also say that you can go out to dinner, you can have entertainments, you can have dinner parties, blah, blah, blah. Well, who knows whether you're having a dinner party or you're having, dry cereal for dinner? Nobody knows,
Right.
So I tell the clients, if you want to have dinner, I said, invite the invisible man who lives in the back of your pantry to dinner, and when he doesn't show up, you eat by yourself.
Right. Well, don't one of these places, companies that actually distribute the funds, have like a card, just like our bank cards, and we can draw money from that?
Normally, and I recommend this, we usually go with family members as trustees.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate trustees, commercial trustees charge a lot of money.
Right.
And because they're hyper cautious, they don't always respond well to client demands or client needs. A lot of times the clients are left waiting for payments, or they're concerned about not getting a certain treatment that they need, or things like that. There's also, and I hate to bring this up, but I'm going to, there's also,
please do.
Right now there is a company that is under investigation for mismanagement of funds. I do not have anything to do with them. I am completely independent of them, but I know of them, and I've been telling people to be cautious about investing with them for years. And that's my general rule. It's like, if you're going to give your money to a third party, make sure the third party is above board and they can explain what they're doing with your money.
Well, that makes sense, but I will want to bring this out to you, because having been fortunate enough, and I know I was fortunate enough, and I was like the exception, is that having lived my adult life until it ran out, a trust fund, and because it was tied to the family, I found the family then was putting control on it and telling the trust officer what to allow, what not to allow. And because there was a lot of anger in the dynamics of the family, that it made it very difficult, that when I then had to assert, well, do you know who I am? Do you know what I've achieved? I am not going to accept this, this, and this. Then they started to listen to me.
Yeah. And that is something that is an issue. I mean, that is an issue. Most families are very good with these trusts. Some are not. I have had a couple of horror stories. There was one mother who took a 7-figure settlement and invested it in a reality TV show, which bombed.
And oh my gosh.
Yeah. I can't go into too many details.
I understand that. I'm cautious well with what I've
But yes, there are occasionally family members, parents that are not responsible, and shouldn't be put in a fiduciary position. So when you pick a trustee, you have to be very, very cautious. Also, the one drawback with the special needs trust is that if you are a neurotypical disabled adult, which is to say that you are not impaired intellectually or emotionally or what have you, you have to have a trustee that is not you. That's the one drawback in the law. And the reason they did that is because when they were writing this law back in 1993, Congress, in their infinite wisdom, as I've said, decided that everybody was Jerry's kids. It didn't matter how mature you are, or whether or not you were a lawyer with a disability, or whether you were a doctor with a disability. You needed to have somebody else looking after your money. It's something that I've tried to get changed over the years. It's virtually impossible to do because Congress moves very, very slowly.
Well, that we've learned.
I mean, the law for special needs trust was passed in 1993. It wasn't until 2016 that they amended the law to allow an individual to set up their own special needs trust.
Oh,
It always had to be a parent, grandparent, or guardian.
Right.
They didn't even say a sibling, but most jurisdictions allowed siblings to do it because, guardians in fact, let's say.
Right.
But individuals couldn't do it until 2016. And interestingly enough, it was Senator Chuck Grassley's office that spearheaded that addition for the individuals. Because I worked with them briefly getting that law passed.
Oh, that's great for what you did. I want to congratulate you, what you've done for those who are disabled and the opportunities they can have, because so many, say no, they don't play the lottery, or if you do, you got to make sure you get if you're going to need it, you got to make sure you win the millions. Otherwise, you're going to lose your benefits or your housing.
Right. And even if you win a good deal of money goes quickly, especially if you have unique medical issues.
That's true.
You can burn through millions of dollars if you have certain medical issues. I mean, winning the lottery is no guarantee you're going to have money.
Well, see, people say, well, I'll play the lottery. I'm like, well, in today's times, you need so much if that's what's going to be your substance.
Yeah. I mean, years and years ago, I had clients and they were paying $1,000 a day to keep their daughter in a very, very good residential program.
Right.
But they were paying $365,000 a year.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, they were very wealthy people, obviously.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But even at $365,000 a year, eventually the money's going to run out.
Exactly. Because I know that I was led to believe I would always have the trust. It would always be there with the way they talked to me and what they were doing. And it's like, I never worry. I figure I know I don't have to worry. I never abused it. And I didn't go buy big luxury things either.
Right.
It was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, that it's like it's running out. What am I going to do? And circumstances that I don't go public on, I was kind of left in a really bad situation.
Yeah, I had a friend that had a similar situation where she was left a good deal of money and then found out that the person who bequested it to her had taken out loans against it.
And so then, I guess your question. So let me ask you then, because there are some that are not savory, whether it's family or even some you're good friends with, and then you let them, and then what should people look for in people, I guess, to know whether or not they should go and let an agency handle it versus a family member or friend?
A strong sense of ethics.
Okay.
Where do they
where do they learn those ethics? Because that's the thing, is like people tell you, go get this, but But it's like with what I do is always, well, I'm going to give you somebody to get that information, regardless of what it is.
You've
So
got to do you've got to do a lot of research about companies that will manage trusts. See, one of the things is that nowadays you can't even get responsible trust management for anything under $1 million.
uh-huh.
And if you've got a smaller trust of several $100,000, you basically have to fall back on somebody that you know.
Right.
So it's, you have to take there is a certain amount of chance in this. However, fortunately, most of the situations I've come across in my 3,000 trusts that I've written have been good.
That's great.
I can count on the
I just want to cut out 1 minute because I don't know if it's a distraction. I just want to let people know. You see the dog up in the corner. Well, this is the live dog. This is the real dog who's been sitting with me, and I'm trying to get her to, so you could kind of see here. This is mascot Miss Lady Phoenix, and I just want to say that she represents what we all should be doing: uplifting and smiling. So that's why got a little distracted. If you saw me, what am I doing with my hands? This little girl, Miss Lady Phoenix, is like trying to move around a little bit, but she wants to be with me.
Okay. Yeah, but most of the trusts that I've done, I've never had a family problem. I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of times we've had troubles.
I'm really glad to hear that because I hear so many stories, especially, wealthy families. You find so many of them can be rather toxic because it's money and their egos and control and things like that. So it's really nice to hear you say that you really had very few, especially with family, to have had problems with it.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else that you think our listeners should know about you or trust in general, or?
Well, special needs trusts are authorized under federal law. It's a law called 42 USC 1396 PD4A, which you don't have to write down. But I do trusts in all 50 states because they are federal. So if somebody is watching in, Wasilla, Alaska, they can call me up and I can help them.
All right. Well, because of the screening and I'm still learning how to use this program that changed from when I used to use it, please share with our listeners how they can reach out to you.
Okay. There's 2 ways to reach out to me. One is by email, which is jminde@comcast.net. That's the letter J, which is my first name, Jeffrey, minde@comcast.net. No underscores, no ampersands, no nothing. It's simple. This other way is by telephone, 954-257-2586. That's my cell phone. I have a virtual office now. What happened was shortly before the pandemic, I read an article about creating a virtual office. And they said, all you need is, access to the cloud, right, a laptop, and a cell phone. And I said, gee, sounds great, and a wireless printer. I said, sounds great, save all this overhead, of keeping an office and the staff and what have you. Anyway, I set up a virtual office. I announced my virtual office, which opened in January of 2019. And then actually January of 2020, and then shortly after the virtual office began, the pandemic began. So for the first time, I was ahead of the curve on.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
And I had attorneys calling me up from all over the country saying, "How do we go virtual?" So. I could have made a very good living being a consultant in that area for a while.
And, I can mention because that's why people have said, I wish I knew this. When I ended up having to go through, I'm sorry if I'm speaking loud, that when I found myself going to have to fight my certain parties to get my daughter back and not knowing where to turn. And then people were saying, gosh, how did you know and all this? It was like, what choice did I have? But I had to start the nonprofit and be able to put the knowledge out there because people don't know where to go.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I just want to add the one thing, what makes us different than a lot of the other groups out there. Of course, number one, we're one of the pioneers in the country on it. But also our focus for the National Single Parent Resource Center is geared to those who are going to become a single parent, whether if they're not married and dating, to marriage or post custody or post single parent issues, and give them like that basic knowledge so that they can be in control of their case, working as a team with their lawyer rather than being dictated to what's going on, and how you can investigate and get the knowledge. Also, the understanding how the law works, as well as the cases and all of these things that goes into what the attorneys do to be on top of your case.
Right. Well, anyway, let me add as a last statement. My fees are very reasonable.
All right.
So, so most people should not have a problem dealing with that aspect of it.
So you're also knowledgeable and you are cost effective for anybody who needs a special needs trust.
Yes, I think so.
Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure to have you on and share such an important topic. And that's why I was glad that we're friends and you've been really great with me, and to be able to bring you on so that people get the unexpected knowledge here on our show, because people just don't know about these things.
Right.
They really don't. So I want to thank you. You've been a phenomenal guest in sharing so much information on our show today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it, and maybe one day you'll have me back.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. I just have a few things that I want to bring up again as we close out the show. First of all, I want to remind you that we're a show about providing you knowledge so you can get the facts to act and achieve success on all different subject matters. It's not just single parenting. It's just not on trust. It's on all different subjects. But I'm looking from you, because this show is about you. We care about you. And we would like you to go to our website at coachjudy.info, click on the contact form, and send to us topics that you want to hear, that are important to you, because you're important to us. We want to help you. And if we don't know what you want to hear, how can we provide the knowledge that you're looking for? So please go to our website and click on the contact form, and also look through our website, see the programs we now have for single parents. Again, I'm going to bring this up real quick. Here is our video. We want to be able to make this available to those who cannot afford it. So those who donate a portion, or you're from your advertising as a sponsor or as a major donor, we will be taking a percentage of those funds and putting it into the PMA fund, which is programs and materials for reducing abuse, so we can help those less fortunate, so they can get the knowledge, because they're the ones who really lose if you don't have the money. So we want to be able to provide that for them. We also have a program if you want to take a divorce class. Once we have approximately 8 to 10 people, we will start our divorce class, where you're going to get great information. I will bring on attorneys and therapists to talk what I legally can't do, but no, they will come on as part of the class. You'll also receive a certificate of graduating from our class, although it's not a registered class. It's an added benefit that you have besides the Children's First program that all parents have to take when you're using family court. We also have a program that we want for businesses, for our vendor member directory. We want you to list with us, and depending upon what your budget is, we can do a lot for you. But the other thing that I want to do, if somebody would like to help us, we want to do a once a month in person networking event, which is how we started the nonprofit, is do a monthly networking event in person for those that are here. And if you're not in the immediate area of South Florida, then we will also do Zooms. We are also looking for people who want to get involved and volunteer with the National Single Parent Resource Center to help us put on the programs that you need, that we can do, that I know will help parents save time, money, frustration, and provide them the knowledge and the tools so they can be in control of their life versus somebody else being in control. If you've got the knowledge and you can work as a team, you are less likely to have a guardian ad litem in your case, DCF in your case, and other courts involved in your case. So please reach out to National Single Parent Resource Center by going to coachjudy.info. We now, through our new web person, Tim Burkhart, he donated his time to help us redo the coachjudy.info website so it would be automated and have a nice flow to make it easy for anyone who wants to reach out to us. And also, if you would like individual coaching to help turn the negative chatter that may be going on that you're not realizing into positive thoughts and actions so you can achieve the full success that you want, please don't hesitate to reaching out. You don't have to be a single parent for that. Please reach out to me, as again, all of the funds go directly to and benefit the National Single Parent Resource Center, as well as the children, by empowering parents to work in the best interest and in cooperation and harmony with all family members, because people forget it's not just the parents, it's the grandparents, aunts, and uncles. And if you're actively involved in that child, it's key that you get the video and just the video so that you have an understanding, so everybody, again, can work together. Because if you don't have the tools, you're not going to know how to do it. And that's what we want to do. We're about giving you the tools, the knowledge, and through our show, guests, for anybody and everybody who wants to enhance their life or just enjoy relaxing and hearing interesting topics and people that they normally would not hear or even get to know. They will also will be on our website, and depending upon the packages, they're going to be exposed to all types of opportunities. I do want to say one other thing on the website, and we're going to be doing it. We used to be in the media a lot for the different programs we did for single parents. I'm also a PR person, and I am involved with a public relations organization that I helped co-found. So we are planning to get press releases out to the press to let them know what the National Single Parent Resource Center is doing. And if you are a member and join, we will also put your names in the press release so you get exposure. And if you go to the website, you'll also see how we were able to give other businesses exposure, because our show, the Coach Judy Live Show, is a fundraiser for the National Single Parent Resource Center. And there is an article from when we were doing it back in the earlier years. We got businesses listed actually in the paper. So there's all types of opportunities for those who want exposure and want to help and also make a difference in your life and in the lives of today's families, because without your support, we can't bring you the knowledge that you need so you can get the facts, act, and achieve success personally, professionally, in the workplace, at home, as a parent, and so on. So please check us out. Go to the website, get involved. You get involved in new things and opportunities are going to happen that you would least expect. Like me, I did the things I tell people not to do. I had to Google, and I was lucky, and I met Jeff, and he took care of the needs that I had at a reasonable price, and it worked out really great. So, and now he's on the show. So this could be you if you just reach out and get involved. Thank you for tuning in to the Coach Judy Live Talk Show. And remember, we are helping to plant seeds by creating positive thoughts and actions so you can achieve success, because everything starts somewhere. And we were a seed to begin with. And now we are much more than just a seed. Thank you so much. Please share with other people about our show and get them involved. And you get involved because, you know, we care about you. Thank you and have a great, positive, productive week. Thank you very much. Bye. And thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye. Okay. All right, let me see. End stream. Here we go. If you're still watching, we're still learning this app. End stream, and we will be off. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Okay, that went well.